Okay, welcome to another edition of the Edlow Podcast. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And so, I am so excited for this one because I wanted to have a conversation about tag team wrestling, and the reason I wanted to have that conversation is because it's complicated and it's interesting and it's fascinating. And so I thought, who better than to have get prior guests come back? And so today I have Demolition and Devon Dudley uh, on the podcast with us live. And what's so fascinating about this is right before we hit record today, some news came out. Demolition is finally going into the Hall of Fame. So let's just start. First of all, Axe Smash Devon, welcome to the Edlow Podcast.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Great to see you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So perhaps
Yes. A big congratulations to Axe and Smash Demolition.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to start, Devon. You know, you were in the Hall of Fame. You've been in since about 2018. So perhaps you guys can lead a I want to open up a discussion to all three of you. Tell me, as a fan, I think, wow, that's a big honor. But what does it really mean to you guys to be inducted?
Well, it's a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. I mean, we just got word of it the other day, and it's an honor because to be involved with something in our profession and be accepted in that fraternity with all the talent that's in the hall, it's humbling, to be real. And there's a great amount of talent there, and to be considered worthy to be in the hall is a very, very big thing for us.
Yeah, it's just like what Bill was saying. We go to a lot of signings, almost every weekend for years we've been doing this, and a lot of the fans keep saying, "When are you going to get into the Hall of Fame?" And you never know because there's so many great tag teams. I mean, they ask us, who's your favorite tag team? Well, it's so hard to say because they're all of our favorites. We love it. So to all of a sudden get it inducted into this Hall of Fame is just a huge, huge thing. So we're very excited about it.
Devon, you've been in for a while. Tell me, what did it mean to
Absolutely.
you?
I mean, it meant the world to me, as a kid growing up and just wanting to be a professional wrestler. And then by that time, I got old enough to understand the business and things like that. Then I remember when the Hall of Fame first started, it was a dream of mine to be able to do something good in this business where it's recognized and appreciated by so many people, especially the locker room, and watching Demolition over the years was great. I love it. They were one of my idols. I watched them growing up, loved the intensity that they brought to the ring, loved the smashing of everything that they did in there and beating the hell out of people. And I like to say that the Dudley boys pride ourselves on tag teams like Demolition because without them, the Dudley boys would be no Dudley boys.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was saying off air, I do indie wrestling at the lowest level, and one of my things I watch that kind of tag team axe and smash just pounding on the back, and I have tried to emulate that in what I do, being a bigger guy, because the thing that I respect the most about wrestling is when people get over kind of doing the least, if that makes sense. And, as wrestlers, I think you guys know what I'm talking about, where, there are some guys who have to do a lot of flips and things like that, and then others who don't. I mean, and you guys were able to get over, without having to do a lot of flips and a lot of pyrotechnics, you were still able to get over. Um, so anyhow, now that we're talking about the Hall of Fame, can you kind of explain, like, how did it come about? How did you is this the first time and it was a logistical thing, or like had you been let me back up. Had you been asked before to maybe be in part of the Hall of Fame, but logistically didn't work, or did it just all come together this year?
No, we got notified was Saturday, correct, Barry?
Yep, Saturday. Yeah, and we were
Yeah.
told, "Don't say a word to anybody," so
Well,
so we
actually,
didn't.
what had happened is they called us for a Zoom call, and they were showing us some new merchandise items that they're bringing out.
Mm.
And then, of all guys to break in, Undertaker broke in the Zoom call, and he's basically surprised us.
Yeah.
It was very exciting.
And I think what really started everything off was, we signed the contract a little over a year ago with the WWE again, and we went to the last Hall of Fame and we watched it. And Triple H being at the end, at the head of the whole thing now, I think that's kind of what got us into there. It was, you know, we've always got along great with everybody, but I think there was a little heat before, and now there's not, and we're just excited to be with the WWE again.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Um, you know, it looked like we lost Devon's video there for Devon, wait, do you remember what it was like when you got inducted, and can you tell us what that felt like for you?
It was a huge accomplishment for me. All those years, the sweat, the hard work, just putting all of that in there, putting my body on the line like so many others have, and now being appreciated on the one night that we finally get our flowers. And, to me, that was a special moment, not to mention, like I said earlier, thinking about some of the tag team greats that we've watched over the years, Demolition definitely being one of them for me, the Heart Foundation, the Powers of Pain, the Road Warriors. I mean, I remember listening, and I'm gonna go back in time here with my cassette tape, walking to school 3, 4, 5 miles to school from my home, listening on my cassette tape, Demolition's theme song, and it made the walk so much easier for me to get to school. I was in love with that music. Me and Bubba, me and Bubba actually did a song on the WWE album, and they asked me, they said, "What type of music do you want us to come up with and to create?" Jim Johnson. And I said, "You know what I want?" I said, "I want the Demolition beat to it with a little bit of the DX type of Run DMC type of look, but I want that heavy, heavy metal that Demolition has." And sure enough, they created it, and it was probably one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah, I agree. And Devon, what's funny when you guys got inducted in the Hall of Fame, I was so excited because it's you guys were a completely different team. You guys could work like a son of a gun, and it was so convincing everything you wanted to do. And what I thought of was, I wish you were back in our day because we could have tore it up in our younger days with you guys. I mean, we would have had some great matches. Don't you think, Bill?
Except the tables. You
Yeah.
have to go put Barry through the table.
No, but Bill, we would have thrown them through the tables. They wouldn't have thrown us.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have thrown us through the table. More Bubba though than me, because you guys would like me better.
I thought you and Bubba, you guys were just unbelievable. That was huge, and you're good guys too.
Yeah,
I mean,
as a fan watching
thank
you
you. And
guys
again,
y go ahead, Devon. I think there's a little bit
again,
of lag.
watching you guys, yeah, watching you guys gave me so much inspiration. And I'm not just saying this because we're on this together right now, but when I first met you, I said that to you. And I could not express how happy I was when I finally met you guys, and I was gonna be able to tell you that. You know, they say be careful, that when you meet your heroes, because sometimes you're disappointed. Well, I'm gonna say I wasn't disappointed. I was happier than happy can be. I was ecstatic when I met you guys. And to know how good you were to me, that was great. And I say thank you for everything that you've done, the contributions, just everything that you've done for the business was well worth it for me and Bubba. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's very humbling.
Hearing this from you guys, one of the things that, we were talking off air, I've done a lot of these wrestling podcasts, and, I'll just say there are some people who I would love to have back, and then some people that, uh one was enough, right? And, and so the thing that's great about, doing these podcasts is figuring out you can just tell when you have these interviews who are the good people and who are not, and all 3 of you are just such good people, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about now that we're on the kind of on the subject of goodness and stuff is one of the things that really stuck out. I listened to both of your guys' podcasts previously from the Edlow Podcast, and one of the things that stuck out to me about all of you guys was you all had a really strong family emphasis in a business where family sometimes kinda got put on the back burner. You guys are traveling 300 days a year, doing these things, and we hear so many casualties of families where, maybe, family relationships are strained. Can you tell me what it was that you guys if you had tips for the younger guys today who I mean, the schedule's a little bit less, but they're still traveling to those things. Is there any advice you would do to or you would share to help the younger people, to maintain those family relationships while they're on the road?
Well, for me, and I'm sure it's the same situation for all 3 of us, I had a very, very strong, independent wife, still do, luckily, and I would turn my character off once I got off the road. The purpose of being on the road is to make money so when you can come home, you can look around and say, "That's what I'm working for." My wife made major decisions. I know Barry's did too. Bought houses, sold houses. I didn't have to worry about that stuff. So I think that if I was giving advice to somebody that's young, cherish the time that you're home, enjoy it, go back to work. Because my dad was a riverboat pilot, was on the river from Pittsburgh to New Orleans, 28 days round trip, off 7. And I can remember him when he was home for 7 days, he enjoyed it because he knew he had to go back for 28 more. And I learned that time is precious, health is precious, and don't be afraid to let the wives make some decisions.
Yep, that's exactly the same with me. I've been married over 40 years. My wife still runs my life. That makes it easier for me. But, you know, 2 different times I was gone and I came home and I didn't have a home. She bought a new house somewhere. So she she ran the household, and what I tried to do was keep her involved in every conversation that was going on, and I always told her things. I didn't keep her in the dark. So it wasn't like when I came home, what did you do and this and that, and listen to the wives talking and hearing rumors and everything. She got it right from me, and that's why my marriage is still going like it is. I think that's just a huge thing. Yet there's got to be that trust there. She ran the house. Bill and I went out and made the money. And what kind of saved me was once I got with Bill, he's already gone through everything, and I could have been swayed to do other things, go out partying every night and all that, but I didn't. And that's what made us a great partnership that way. And the wives trusted us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say the same. And another thing, you know can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
go.
Okay, yeah, and another thing is, I always left work at work and never brought it home.
Mm.
If there were certain situations that, my significant other had to know, then they would know. But for the most part, I always kept work at work and made family time family time.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. So let's shift gears a little bit. I think that all of you guys had singles careers, but the thing that's been most memorable for all 3 of you was your time in a tag team. And tag team wrestling is such a different animal and so to me has always been a favorite because the creativity, even just the the creativity of trying to create the hot tag or do these different things, not to smarten everybody up, but just the psychology of tag team wrestling. Perhaps we could have you guys see, considering that you guys are all Hall of Famers, uh, we could talk about what it takes to be a good tag team wrestler specifically.
Well, Barry and I have talked about this a number of times. We get asked by the fans, and I'm sure the Devon as well. I think that one of the things you have to have complete trust in your partner. You just can't throw two guys together that don't have any chemistry. Nowadays, and for a period of time, you get these two individuals that the promoter brought in, and he's not really sure. He doesn't got a spot for them right now. So he's going to put them together. Well, neither one of them want to be in a tag team. They both want to be individuals. And that's good too. But you have to be in a situation where you're not trying to look better than your partner at the time. You're trying to have the best match possible. It doesn't matter who's selling, who's doing whatever, as long as the match is the best match possible. And Barry and I worked on that a lot. Uh, you have to have chemistry. You have to have trust. You have to talk back and forth, eliminate things that don't work, add things and see if they work. And that's where Fuji came in our respect, because he would critique it, constructively critique it. So you just can't throw two guys together. Both of the guys have to work for the team.
Mm.
You know, the first time that we were together,
Yeah.
I believe it was Tampa, Florida, wasn't it, Bill? Was that where we first started on TV?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, because I've heard that from other people. But anyways, we were talking in the dressing room and trying to figure out what to do out there, and really, we didn't talk about anything but except how we're gonna figure out what our finish was gonna be. And when we got out there, it was just like it clicked right off the bat. I knew what Axe was gonna do, Axe knew what Smash was gonna do, and it just from the first day we were in the ring, it just flowed, and over the years, it was so easy. We used to go out to the matches, and we'd have the time of our life. It was so fun, and, you know, our main goal was to have the best match on the card, and some nights we'd come back and we go, "Ah, you know, we coulda did a little better," but 99% of the time, we'd come back and go, "That was the greatest match we ever had." Every night, we'd say that, and it was just so much fun, and that's what made the tag team.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Bubba and I basically two different people, totally two different people. And we knew that in ECW, if we were gonna last, if we were gonna do anything in this business, number one, we first had to get to know each other. That was one. And two, what I was lacking, he would pick up and vice versa. So we knew that. And the biggest thing is we never tried to outshine each other. You
Right.
know, we always had to be on the same page. And we knew that because we've seen so many tag teams, whether it be ECW or other organizations, where they didn't last because they didn't get along. They didn't trust each other. And the biggest thing is trust. And that was the one thing I can honestly say. Me and Bubba trust each other. And not only that, but we were unique and we were different. And we knew that coming into this. And, something that's unique and different is special right off the bat. We realized that and we made sure that the Dudley boys were gonna, make the people that came before us, proud and and we were eager to learn. You know, if there were guys in the locker room like Demolition or whoever was in there at the time, we would always pick their brains, not in an annoying way, but in a way where we wanted to get better and have they would watch our matches, critique us, let us know what we did wrong, let us know what we did right. One of the biggest names was Ravishing Rick Rude. When he came to ECW, he sat and watched our matches and pulled us aside when he saw things that could have been corrected and even praised us when we did right. He was one, Bam Bam Bigelow, Tommy Rich, Tommy Rogers. We had so many veterans come through the door of ECW to help us. So by the time we got to the WWE, now we're groomed and we're ready to go. And then the learning tree still continued. Guys like APA, Farouk and Bradshaw, Undertaker and Kane. I mean, it was great working with those guys. And I wish we would have had the opportunity to be able to work with Demolition. Oh my God. Like we talked earlier before we went on, those matches would have been great. And I would have loved to see you pick up Bubba and put him through a table.
That would have been a great, that's, playing kind of fantasy mixed match. It's interesting because, Demolition, really dominated the WWF in the '80s, and into the early '90s, and then, the Dudleys came at the late '90s and early 2000s during the Attitude Era, and now we have a completely different era of tag teams that have come around. Playing fantasy booker, what are some other tag teams from different eras that you guys wish you could have worked with?
Oh, there's so many teams. We get asked that quite often, and like we said, of course, it would have been the Dudleys and, uh, oh goodness,
I I
there's
would have liked I would have liked to Triple H and, Shawn Michaels. I thought that would have been a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I think it just would have been a good pair. And, who else? Edge and his partner, um,
Yeah, that would have been great.
Christian. Yeah, I thought we could have tore it up with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Demolition was big on mine. The Hart Foundation would have loved to work with them. The Road Warriors, the Powers of Pain, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, and Telly and On. I mean, I wish Demolition's era was when tag team wrestling was really, really good and hot. And with so many tag teams, watching that we watched growing up, it would have been great to be able to be in the ring with those guys. I'm just mad that my parents didn't have me earlier where I could have made it in the business and have been able to work with these guys.
Yeah,
It's
but you worked with a lot of guys that we would have liked to have worked with too, though, you know?
Right. Yeah. But still, to me, it was special. Growing up, watching you guys and all those tag teams that I had mentioned was my dream because I never wanted to be in a tag team. It was Bubba that wanted to be in a tag team. I always wanted singles. And when we got together, I realized how special being in a tag team was. And I grew to love it and to the point where I didn't want to do singles because to me, singles was too tiring. I get tired and on singles, I can't tag out to nobody. No, but I understand once you understand the art of tag team wrestling, it's magical. And that's the one thing I love because it's not just you and the individual, it's you, your partner, and the other two on the opposite side of you. So once you understand that and get that, man, the magic can be unreal.
Yeah. I just had a thought. When you think about it, for those who may be listening, I have a lot of a large contingent of my fan base that aren't necessarily wrestling fans. And I would liken it to the NBA, and that when you have your high school kids, that would be the similar to, like, maybe the lower level indie guys, and there's thousands upon thousands of high school players, and the best of the best end up in college, and that would be kinda more, a higher echelon indie, and then you get to the NBA, and so few guys get to the NBA, and when you think about the numbers of guys who go to wrestling school, especially these days when there's one popping up in every town, there are so many guys trying to make it and so few who get to the top, and when you think about a Hall of Famer, they are the cream of the crop of everybody who even made it to the big time and actually made a living on wrestling. And I often, it's always fun to debate who could have made it in different eras. I think Hall of Famers probably could make it work in any era. And so, when you think about some of these things, like, I think the Dudleys definitely could have survived in the '80s with all those tag teams, and Demolition in the '90s during the Attitude Era because you guys would have adjusted to the styles and made them all work. And so, one thing I did wanna ask you guys, though, is, are there any tag teams in particular that you felt, man, you kinda wish that they would have gotten a push, maybe they were a little underrated, that you think never really got their due?
Well, off the top of my head, I would say, Powers of Pain were one.
Mm.
They got a push, but I think they could have been pushed a lot more. Power and Glory.
That's
Yeah,
what I was gonna say, Power and Glory. They
yeah,
kinda halted that right away.
yeah. And the Young Stallions, they were really good too. I mean, we were fortunate, as Devon mentioned, there were so many good tag teams at that time that we were able to work with. It was pleasant every night to go into the ring. It really was, because you knew you were gonna have a good time. Uh, you were gonna protect them, they were gonna protect you. And, the object is to not only wrestle tonight, it's to wrestle tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. So we didn't have to worry about that at that time. It's different now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was really hard when we were up there
Yeah, it is.
was there was so many tag teams already. It was hard to bring in another tag team to push them when there were so many people in line, already that were incredible. So, it would have been really hard for a tag team to come in and take over everything, you know what I mean?
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the tag teams that I would have loved to have worked with constantly, and I only worked with once, was Mick Foley and The Rock. We did
Well,
one match together on Monday Night Raw, and then that was it. You know, um, I think that was one where we could have did some really good business, but unfortunately, like I said, there was only one match, and both The Rock was and Mick Foley were both single stars, and Vince put them together for that one magical moment, and that was it. But again, if we would have been able to work a program with them, I think the Dudleys would have did really good with The Rock and Mick Foley.
Mm.
yeah, and, and bring it up, I think if we would have had a little run with, Savage and Hulk too, I think we could have had a heck of a run with those guys. But they had their singles and, they were the main events in all the towns, so it was a whole different ball game, but it would have been nice to work a little bit of a deal with those guys, I thought.
Mm. You know,
Yeah,
uh, there
and it's
was a
kind of hard when you got. It's hard when you have. Go ahead.
I wanted you to go ahead and finish what you were saying. I'll move on to a different topic after.
No, it's kind of hard when you have a program when you do a match. With two individuals that are single stars, and especially when there's chemistry there and it clicks, and wishing that you could do more business. I would have loved to have seen Demolition and the Mega Powers right before they exploded. Hogan and Savage. That'd have been great. Because again, it was two guys on each team that were really stars. Demolition, in my opinion, were always stars. And again, I'm not just saying it because these two gentlemen are here. That's how I perceived Demolition at the time. I loved the character. I loved everything about them. And I was a big Hogan fan and Randy fan. So to see them actually go was like a dream match for me. So that would have been great.
Mm.
Again, the Rock and Sock connection. Again, I wish we would have had more time with them as opposed to that one match, but we only had one, and I think the chemistry would have been really, really good because we were both on this. We were all four of us were on the same page.
Mm. Yeah. You know, um, uh, for Demolition, and I could even open this up to the Dudleys too. Um, there was a time, from what I understand, where there was a possibility that Demolition was gonna go to WCW. And, if that had happened, were there any tag teams over there that you thought would, have been good business for you? And then open it up to Devon, if you were to if we were to see the Attitude Era shifted and WCW won the Monday Night Wars, who do you think the Dudleys would have ended up working with over there? Let's start with Demolition.
Well, I'll have to defer to Barry because he actually ended up there. I don't actually remember the prominent tag teams that were there at that time, but,
Well, Luger and Sting were kind of the top guys there. They would have it would have been a good one for us to go with them. And then the Road Warriors were down there. And again, I think they messed that up in the WWF. They rushed that so much they just brought them in and put us against them. If they would have worked a program and put us together way later, it would have really meant something. It would have really drawn money. And I think that would be the same problem they would have had if we would have went to WCW. They would have put us right with those guys and not worked the program. So, but I think, the Road Warriors down there would have been a huge deal for us
Mm,
before they came into the WWE.
Yeah. I'm gonna say for the Dudleys, it definitely have been Sting and Luger. That was one. And although we wrestled one time, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, again, I think more could have been done, and even the Rock and Roll Express,
mm,
or even Telly and On. You know, I would have loved to work with them because they were still when me and Bubba were in ECW and making the transition up to the WWE. Telly and On was still working, and I had thought maybe there could have been an opportunity for us to have been able to be in the ring with them, but we never got the opportunity because we never went to WCW. And the unfortunate part is, again, a dream match for us never happened.
mm. Yeah. I've always thought it would have been really interesting to see Demolition work the Skyscrapers, specifically Sid and Dan Spivey. Did you ever have any interactions with either of them?
Yeah, we of course, we knew Dan. I don't think, Sid was there when we were there, but Dan was, and, always nice, always good guy. Uh, yeah, that would have been a good combination.
Mm, yeah. Uh, what now, let me ask you the tag teams right now that were kind of, I guess, the next era's tag teams that I think will be the Hall of Famers of the next generation. The names that stick out are easily the New Day and the Usos. But, their styles are a little bit different than maybe the styles of the Attitude Era and yesteryear. Do you think that those programs would work with your guys' styles, and would you have wanted to work with them as well?
Well, I think we were speaking for us, and I know the Dudleys as well. You can adjust.
Mm,
You can, make adjustments in your match so you can have a good once you're in the ring and feel comfortable, it's just a matter of tweaking the ring, tweaking the match, I mean, and you can have matches if they can work, you can have a good match with it. Now, if
mm,
they don't want to, it's gonna be a long night. You could still have a match, but
mm.
I think those guys that you mentioned, they're professional, and I think that they would also wanna have a good match.
Yeah, I think what really made the Demolition and, it's we could work with everybody. We worked everybody's style, and that's why we kinda really like to be heels because we would when it was time for the baby faces to make their comeback, we gave them one hell of a comeback, and here we're 2 big strong guys, and we cheat to win. It was kind of the same process for every team, and we could work with smaller guys, bigger guys, whatever, and I think that's what kinda made the Demolition and why everybody wanted to work with us too, because they knew they were gonna have good matches with us. So with, the Usos or, the New Day, I think we'd pair it up with those guys too.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Like they said, if you can work, then you're gonna have a good match. There's no question about that.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, so as far as teams that maybe were difficult to work with for whatever reason, like you mentioned, if there were some teams that, they didn't wanna have a good match or they didn't want to, they didn't wanna work a certain way. Was there anyone that you found to be hard to work with?
Well, I really wouldn't say they were hard to work with. A lot of times, my biggest idea about that is you had 2 individuals, you didn't have a team.
Hmm,
So you had one guy that was worried, how does he look during the match? The other guy, how do I look during the match? And sometimes when you have two single guys, it's harder. But, we didn't have any trouble with anybody. Uh, One of the things that Vince used to tell them is if you're going to get potatoed, you're going to get potatoed and just take it.
Hmm.
So I think that I honestly don't think that we had any difficulties with anybody. There's guys that we preferred to work with,
Hmm.
but we work with everybody.
But Bill, when we first started, it was like you had all these great tag teams there, and all of a sudden they put the Demolition together, and it seemed like they didn't want to really uh, work with us as much as they did later on. It was like they wanted to be strong because they didn't know exactly what they were going to do with us when we started. They didn't know they were going to give us a big push. In the meantime, Vince is telling us, "We want you strong. You get into it." And it didn't matter who it was. But that's really what we didn't. We didn't kind of work like that. But after we worked with the team, then they knew we weren't selfish and want to take the whole match. Then I think it changed, and I think the word got to everybody, "Hey, you wanna work with these guys." Don't you feel that, Bill?
Yeah, I think that, and Devon will probably say the same thing. In the business, you have to have an ego or you're
Yep.
not going to survive. And sometimes the egos of the individuals
Yep.
override their own ability. So they think that they're actually a lot better than they are. But
Right.
just work the night. The match is tonight. Work the match. And if you have problems, we'll talk it out and have it the next night. So
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, now Devon, you and Bubba Ray, you guys worked literally, it felt like everywhere. I mean, you went to TNA, you went to, you were in WWE, you were in ECW. Same question to you. Were there any tag teams as you were coming up or anything that you felt, man, I really wish they would have had a moment in the spotlight or somebody who you thought maybe could have reached a higher potential? And what do you think it was that kind of stopped that?
I can't tell you what stopped it.
Mm.
But one of the guys was Paul London and Billy Kidman. I thought they were really good. They never really got the fair shake. Um, you know, Vince has to see something in you from the get-go. And if he doesn't, then you don't have a shot of making it. One day he's good on you, the next minute he can wake up and not good at all. And I think that was the case with Billy Kidman and Paul London. And we had some really good matches with them. The Bastion brothers were another one during the Ruthless Aggression era. They were a young team that Vince was trying to get over. And we had some really good matches with them, but Vince didn't see it that way. And so, in terms of didn't see any potential in them. And we went to him a couple of times and said, just give these guys a chance. Let us work a little bit more with them. And I guarantee you, we'll have them right where you want them. And Vince didn't see that. So he was like, no, I'm going to go in a different direction with these guys and I'm going to make them singles and whatever. So it was like, okay, well, we tried. There was nothing really we could do at that point. But those are some of the guys that I wish that would have gotten a shot. And, it could have been some really good business.
So for younger wrestlers who are trying to come up, I've met some who actually I remember there's a tag team, I don't know if you guys know who they are. They spent a little bit of time in TNA. They were called the Reno Scum, and they just loved being in a tag team. Both of them were excellent workers. But they just liked being in a tag team together. And but they never they for whatever reason they couldn't get to that next spot. And you guys both were kinda coming in an era, both of the Dudleys and Demolition came in at a time where there was a pretty full roster of tag teams. Um, how is it that you think that you guys kinda caught that view of Vince and were able to reach those heights when the pool was so deep?
well, in our situation, I think you remember that the the first partner was Randy Colley.
Yeah.
And he had approached Vince with the idea, and we tweaked it. And Vince suggested that I work with him. And it just didn't work out because people recognized him. He was in there as their champion for years, one of the Moondogs. So then we had to find another partner. But I think Vince had the idea from the day one that when the reaction of the fans when we came down the first night, the people accepted it. I mean, they were ambitious or anxious to see what was going to take place. And we had a good match, but they recognized Randy. Same thing happened the next night. So Vince knew that the character was going to go. And I even told Randy, I said, this is going to be a good character. You came up with most of it. I'm going back to Japan. You can do it and good luck. And he said, no, I realize what you're saying. And he was gracious enough to step aside because he knew it wasn't going to work as the Moondog. And then we went on search for a partner. And I was in Japan at the time. And then Barry met with Vince. And then I came back and we joined up. But I think we knew it was going to work from day one. And I think Vince knew that as well.
And, and I think before I became Smash, Ricky Steamboat put me over to Vince, and the Hebners put me over with Vince so big that, Vince, I think, went back and probably looked at a lot of my old matches and everything. And then when I met with him, I was probably the youngest guy in the territory when we went up there. I was, 24 years old or 25 years old? I don't know. I've been working for 4 years already every day. So when I met with Vince, I think Vince kind of thought, this might be a really good fit here because Bill was a big guy and Bill could work and I could work. And I think he just thought that it was going to just work out great. But the one thing that Vince said to me, he goes, I'm going to hire you. But he says, I need to talk to Bill first to see if you're going to, he'll accept you as a partner. So the way Vince was talking, if Bill said, oh, I don't want Barry or anything, I would have had a job there doing something. But, right away, Bill knew all my friends. I knew Bill and we met before, and it just ended up working out just great.
Awesome. So now as far as Devon, yeah, we have got just a few more minutes here, and I want to open that up to you as well. What do you think it was? The Dudleys, they didn't, they didn't look like the traditional tag team, yet you guys still got over. What do you think it was about you two that made you guys get over when there were so many tag teams kind of in the deep pool of the Attitude Era?
Well, I think because we understood the business. I think when you have a better understanding of the business and an understanding of each other and you know what has to be done, I think that's what's going to help get the tag team over. We were eager to learn. And I said that earlier. So I don't want to repeat myself, but, we basically, went out there and learned from a lot of the best that had come before us. And, we didn't just open our mouths and and try not to listen to those that had came before us. We kept our eyes open, ears open, and mouth shut, and we learned, we watched, we studied. And I think that's what made the Dudleys the Dudleys.
But,
We were
but
able to do
Devon,
that, and long and behold,
but Devon, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
uh,
when I first saw you guys were characters, you had charisma, and you were working son of a guns. I mean, yeah, you listened and this, but you guys had it, and whoever seen you on TV said, "Well, these guys are the guys." I mean, it's that simple. You know, you could bring in a million tag teams, they don't mean nothing, but if they look right, they can work and have charisma. That's the guy they're going with, and that's why I think they went with you guys. You're good.
yeah, I mean, thank you, and I really appreciate that. And we both had our it about each other. Bubba had his and I had mine. And, again, I pride myself on learning from one of the best, which is Johnny Rodz, WWE Hall of Famer. And, he taught me a lot of that stuff. And I think that's why I was so rounded off really good in the ring. I mean, he taught myself, he taught Taz, he taught Tommy Dreamer, Big Dick Dudley, Mondo Clean. He even helped Piper put him over in his book where Johnny Rodz helped Piper. SD Special Delivery Jones. I mean, so many guys have come through Johnny Rodz's door that he helped and made successful. And I'm proud to say that Devon Dudley was one of them. Helped me find myself and be able to portray that in front of the people.
Wow. Well, guys, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for coming on again, especially it's such a special occasion to be able to be, podcast you on the very day that it's announced that you're in the Hall of Fame for Demolition. That really means a lot. And as a fan, I'll tell you, I've watched wrestling my whole life, and it's an esteemed honor to have guys who I have looked up to, who inspired me to get in the ring, to and created magical moments. One of the things that I really think about is I went to WrestleMania 39 and 40. 39, I had all 4 of my children there, including my 2 girls who weren't excited to go, but it was my birthday, so they had to. And and then at WrestleMania 40, it was me and my boys. And to sit there and watch my boys get excited and share something so meaningful to me that a lot of people might not understand, to share that with them was very magical. And I put myself in the shoes of my youngest son when I watched Demolition beat Strikeforce, and when I saw the Dudleys in the ladder matches and completely changed the ladder match and putting people through tables and putting Mae Young through a table, for crying out loud, and all these magical moments that are seared in my brain forever. So I want you guys to know that you guys have created a legacy that is going to be there long after you guys are gone. You're gonna be remembered for the things that you did, and I hope that you guys understand how meaningful that is. As a fan, it is so meaningful to me that you guys were willing to leave your families and do those things and do something that I know you love, but create magical moments that I can then share with my children and eventually my grandchildren. So as a fan, I just wanna say thank you, and it's about fricking time that you guys got where you are.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We love the fans. You can't do anything without the fans.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
Absolutely. Testified.
Devon, great seeing you again, brother.
yeah. All right. Well, this is another edition of the Edlow Podcast.
Oh,
Subscribe for
always a
crying out loud.
pleasure. And I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Definitely. Well, thanks everyone who's listening, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.